He just bombed us and we're taking care of him. It's not fair.
The search continues for a final resting place for Boston bombing suspect Tamerlan Tsarnaev.
You do have to bury him. You can't allow cremation, so if nobody does it, then whether it comes from Washington or wherever it comes from, they're going to have to help.
That's funeral director Peter Steffen, who's faced protests outside his Worcester, Mass. Funeral home since accepting Tsarnaev's body. He hasn't been able to find a cemetery that will take it. Burying the reviled and infamous isn't a new problem, and we spent some time today looking into how it's been handled in the past. In 1997, Congress went so far as to pass a law barring anyone convicted of a capital crime of being buried in a national cemetery. It was all to keep Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh out of a military cemetery. He'd served in the Gulf War. After being executed, McVeigh was cremated. Infamous killers like Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy were also cremated. John Wayne Gacy, too. Probably. It's hard to get a firm answer in many cases because cemeteries and families just don't want to talk about it. Cremation isn't an option for Tsarnaev, as the funeral director mentioned, because he was Muslim. John Allen Muhammad, the D.C. sniper, also a Muslim, was buried back near his home in Baton Rouge. But plenty of notorious figures have been laid to rest close to home over the years. Al Capone, just outside Chicago. In fact, a website will give you the exact GPS coordinates. Lizzie Borden in Fall River, Mass., near the home where she allegedly hacked her parents to death. That's just 50 miles south of Boston. Sometimes the graves are hidden in plain sight. The staff at Fort Worth's Rose Hill Cemetery won't tell you where to find Lee Harvey Oswald's grave. In the late 90s, someone, and the cemetery won't say who, bought the plot next to Oswald's and marked it with the name Nick Beef. There isn't a body in the grave. There doesn't even appear to be a Nick Beef. Some say it's the stage name of a comic who told audiences they could get directions to Oswald's grave by asking for beef. Now the cemetery won't give directions to his marker either. But the ultimate story of gravesite intrigue is reserved for one of history's most hated figures. At the end of World War II, Soviet troops found Hitler's body in a crater outside his bunker in Berlin, then buried it in a forest near Rathenau, Germany, only to secretly move the remains 8 months later to a Soviet army garrison in East Germany, all while insisting publicly Hitler was probably still alive. Then in 1970, and these details have just become public recently, the Soviets closed down that East German garrison, and fearing the gravesite could become a neo-Nazi shrine, a special KGB operation exhumed the remains once more, burnt them, and threw the ashes into the Biedrits River. As for Tsarnaev, a Massachusetts man has started a fund seeking to raise the $3,000 to $7,000 it would cost to ship his body to Russia. Russia, it is said, doesn't want it either.